All right, Terry, looks like we're live, my man.
Very nice, Mike. Good to be back, man. It's been a little while.
Yeah, welcome back to the Cloud Investing Podcast. You were a lot of people don't know this. I've run a few of these, not too long. It's I've been putting podcasts out probably for about a month, and then we got backed up with a little bit of stuff, and now we're putting a new one out. And Terry was actually my very first guest on here, which was awesome. You did a fantastic job as usual. I expected nothing less than that. I'm going to pull up Terry. Say hi to everybody, and maybe tell us a little bit about what we're going to cover today. This is going to be a little out of the norm for what we normally do on the Cloud Investing Podcast. But go ahead and pull it up, or tell us what we're
Yeah,
going to
we're
cover.
excited to be here. Mike, for those of you who know Mike and I, we enjoy working together, and we've done lots of calls on a variety of subjects. Sometimes we're talking cloud, DAOs, seats, crypto. We talk about all kinds of exciting things going on. And today, I'm excited to talk about the future of the cloud and how you can actually own it, or what I like to call 4 bites of the apple if you want. And so it's just really cool to give people some perspective. I don't think they realize just how incredible of an opportunity is right there in front of them at their fingertips if they just want to grab onto it. So
Perfect. So Terry, so on the Cloud Investing Podcast, I basically created it for introducing people and kind of getting the word out about fractionalized ownership of data centers. Data centers being kind of our ability to get in on the large data centers, which is all the rave. It's where all the big money's going, where commercial real estate. I've mentioned this on multiple podcasts that I have, that just literally 5 minutes up the street, there's billions and billions of dollars worth of data centers being built right where I go to church, like literally across the street. The whole entire streets is there. It's all of them. You can even look it up in the news. You can look up Columbus, Ohio. It'll say New Albany. That's where I live. Okay. So it's just insane. We found a company, and we're going to probably talk a little bit more in detail about this. Terry and I, because we've been going back and forth on business ideas, found out that there was a company that was allowing fractionalized ownership of data center units within these big data centers. And what we could do is, for like a one-time purchase a data center. As data was loaded on these centers, they basically paid us royalties, whatever you want to call them, but basically money that goes into our pockets on a passive monthly basis. Now, it's not passive as the fact that you can just set it and forget it, but it's just everybody's looking for storage. And in fact, I've had experts already on our show that were talking about the fact that they can't keep up with the amount of demand for data centers. I know you're going to cover that because we talked about that on the one interview we did, or what was happening yesterday. And so and the other thing too is, when we got involved, we found, because we had been searching around, we found a company called Innate Technologies. And if you want more details, you can get a hold of Terry or I, that was allowing the fractionalized ownership of these data centers. And it's really gotten bigger than we expected, because of something new they just released, which is one of the reasons you and I are doing this call right now. But it falls right along the lines with what we're doing with our crypto stuff as well, which is just mind-boggling. So Terry, go ahead. I did get the PDF uploaded. That Terry gave me like a bunch of screen images real quick. It's the worst PowerPoint slash PDF ever, because it's just phone screenshots. But you'll get the idea, and it'll kind of just keep us on track. So go ahead, Terry.
yeah, and I think that's just it, right? Like we just wanted to get together in an impromptu and talk to people about what we're excited about. Like the idea that you can own a piece of hardware in a cloud, to me, is actually just, I mean, I hate using the term revolutionary because I think it's thrown around too much, but it really is. And so, the other thing we want to talk about today is it's not just about owning hardware. You can own a piece of the entire co-op, right? So I just think that's just absolutely incredible. I think it's going to very huge places that you can't imagine. And I'm hearing lots of amazing things happening in the background. And I think we're getting really close to kind of like that inflection point where major milestones are about to happen. And I think this thing is going to really finally blossom into its own and take off. So just want to make sure people are paying attention and taking advantage of what all the opportunities that are in front of them.
Perfect. Oh, real quick, shout out to my sponsor for my new T-shirt, Cloud Investing
Oh,
Podcast by Mike Healy. That was given
nice.
to me by modernprintco.co or .com, modernprintco.com. They do all kinds of stuff out there. So there's my shout out. So Terry, let me pull up this
I love it.
this PowerPoint real quick, and you can see that it says and I'll read this out because I know there's people that listen in on these things. I actually have somebody said they're listening in currently from an Alaskan shores on a Norwegian cruise ship.
Nice.
And so this PowerPoint I got up here, it says in the world, if the world is on a downward trend, why don't we change directions? And I thought that was really good that they had that. Let me go into okay, so let's talk about the let's use this slide first and talk about the DAO. So we have the ability with the fractionalized ownership, we buy data centers, data is loaded on them, we get paid. These guys have now taken this to a completely different level in a great way with what they call a DAO, DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Terry Tillaart, give us like in the words of Michael Scott, explain this to me like I'm six.
Right. I think DAOs really are the future. This idea that we have to have a corporate hierarchy to own things is kind of absurd, right? There's just no reason or need for it to be that way. And so a DAO is a lot like a co op. It's the easiest way to think of it, right? And you and I get to be owners of that co op if we want. You can buy yourself a seat, which is pretty awesome. Some people who bought boxes, data centers inside of the larger cloud already have seats, but you might want more than one. And what that gives you the ability to do is it allows you to have a voice to vote on the direction of where we go in the future. For example, someday the company may go public. Someday the company may be open to a buyout offer. And depending how things are going, you may feel really excited about that, but you may also not feel excited about it. Some people like the steady cash flow, and you might not want to give it up for a one-time big payday. The good news is if you have a seat in the co-op, you get to vote. And voting on the ability of what happens next with the co-op, I think, is incredibly powerful. So I'm just so excited about that idea. And also, there's a lot of other benefits and perks for you to be a part of the co-op. All right. So owning a box in the wall is incredible in terms of hardware. But if you can own a piece of the entire thing, could you imagine if this goes? Can you imagine if this goes public and you are an owner, right? It's not an IPO, but it's a lot like an IPO in that sense. And let me ask you this question, Mike, and it's proverbial, but it's true. Like, if did you ever get the invite to buy into Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Amazon's Cloud, Nvidia, any of these big tech companies, right? Whatever.
I think I lost my invitation in the mail.
You did. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, we're talking about big monster tech companies because the goal of this is to turn into to turn into a $10 billion enterprise. So when did you get a chance to get the invite in the early days to get a seat at the party? You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I look at it. I think it's incredible.
And it never happened. I mean, it literally never happened. So Terry, so the DAO is basically allows people to come in and be decentralized, which is one of the reasons we like crypto so much and why it just makes more sense because it's putting control back into people's hands versus into individuals' hands. Let's talk about, let me see where we got here. Do you want to talk about the token economy or do you want to talk about what the DAO
Yeah,
situation looks
let's
like?
start with talking about some of the other benefits of just like maybe joining the co-op if you wanted to, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you get the chance to vote. That's huge. And if you have a box plugged into the wall, you get cash flows that from tenants, right? It's a tenancy, it's a digital landlord play. Think of it this way, guys. It's like driving by that huge storage unit on the side of the highway. If you live in Southern Florida where all the snowbirds come, you see them everywhere. But if me, you, and Roy were going to try and set one up, we would need a lot of money to do that. So we might get a big group of people in on it, and we each own 10 garage bays, so to speak, right? But now you get a chance to own the whole thing. It's incredible. So you don't get just the tenancy now. If you own a piece of the co-op, you're also going to get royalties, dividends, and crypto tokens that should have a lot of value in the future. So that's incredible. I call it getting 4 bites of the apple instead of one. So I think that's the most important thing of like when people are looking at this, they're thinking, what's in it for me? Well, that's what's in it for you. Do you want royalties, dividends, tokens, and rent checks because I want them all.
And that, to me, that gives us what we always talk about on the podcast and just in general is um, you have diversity. You have the ability to diversify where income streams potentially are coming from. And when you have with the Dow, it's similar because I mean I'm out of elementary school. I think I might only be in like sixth grade when it comes to the understanding of the crypto space because it's just so big and so impressive that with these DAO seats, quote unquote, they're now as royalties are coming in from innate technologies and all of the aspects of the data centers and literally could be billions of dollars. Those royalties are going into the value of the DAO tokens of that or of those, and the innate NFT, I guess you could call it. So we have the ability to have that aspect, correct? Like I'm getting royalties off of that, as well as if I own a center, which I do, I'm making royalties off of that. So it's like, is that what you're talking about?
Right. So just for people who may not understand, royalties is money that is taken off of the top line revenue. If the company does $1 billion in revenue and sales for that year, you get the royalties off of the billion. So let's just say it was, I don't know, let's just use 5% as an example. We take 5% off of those are committed royalties to come to create value for the Dow seat members. That's whether or not the company is profitable or not. We are automatically going to be beneficiaries of that. So to me, that's incredible. What happens when it's a $10 billion outfit and we're getting some royalties that come crashing into, in an indirect way, into our wallets? That's pretty damn awesome. And so the way it's going to work is very simple. And then there's dividends also as well. If you're a Dow seat holder, the difference between dividends and royalties is that dividends are paid from profits. So we know that when the innate cloud brings in revenues, some of it goes, a big percentage goes to the hardware owners, and then they also have operating, revenues that the cloud keeps, but they're going to share those revenues with us. And then if and when the business is operating properly and doing well, and you're going to get a vote on how it's operated, there will be profits left over. And those also get paid to Dow seat owners. And then the last component is that there are crypto tokens, which we'll have to get into today. We'll give it a high level overview, and I'll make it simple so people can understand it. But this is really exciting stuff.
It's sometimes hard to sleep when you really start thinking of the ways that all of these things kind of fit together. This slide I'm gonna put back up here, I thought was a really cool slide that they used in that overview they showed us yesterday. Was how the DAO members, how you have the DAO members, you got brand partners, you got tech owners, and then you got what's that last? I can't
Tech
tech
users.
users. Um, all come together in unity to create this entity, innate technologies, with all the data centers and everything that's going to fuel everything. Like it's all working together, and we happen to be at the forefront of this thing coming together, which is amazing. Like back to what you said, people are also looking for alternatives. Why we're so excited about this is people are looking for alternatives than the big name brand things like AWS, Azure, things like that, because they know that they're data mining their stuff, right? Everybody knows that they're getting hacked, they're getting and they since they pulled so much personalized data, these things are decentralized, but they're highly encrypted and things like that. So it's protecting data. But we have the ability with all of these things together that there's a good chance that token rewards on this DAO could just boom, 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 just really, really start clicking as these things expand, because they already opened up one data center and sold that entire data center out already for people who wanted to invest into getting the fractionalized ownership of those units, those software units. And they've already opened up their second location in Atlanta, Georgia. The first one was over by LA. And now that puts us, what do they call that? That's what's that word where you have the
Geo
two
redundancy.
geo redundancy. Yeah, I've said it 1,000 times. I forgot it. That gives us geo redundancy. They're now going to then be able to branch into the Latin markets, We're going to also be able to probably open another one soon after that. I mean, we got people coming in and getting lots of these centers right out of the gates. And we kind of had heard that they were going to lean towards the DAO to, give us even more power to the people. And then with the ability, then they're going to tokenize this whole project is just amazing. I mean, if people don't understand the significance of tokenization and where everything is about to go, you got to be awake right now.
Yeah, well, and before we get into the tokenization and helping people understand it, we should talk about like where we are at in terms of the evolution of the cloud that's being built right before our eyes. The last time I talked to Joe, and you and I were on the phone with him a few days ago, um, you know, we're at the point where a lot of things that had to happen are all converging and probably, hopefully, all being completed here as July is coming to a close. So, now we've got these new innate hub software services, right? So you've got the tech as a rental service, but then you also have software on top of it. So tech users, like in that one graphic, are important. So the idea that we can replace our Google Drive, our Google Suite, our Google Calendar, our Google Workspaces, the Dropboxes of the world, the Zooms of the world, all of that stuff is about to go live. And so those solutions are completing, and then also the software solutions that are required to allow enterprise level customers to migrate onto the cloud are damn near complete, and they are also set up for scaling as well. And so it's been a bit of a project to get here. I'm sure everyone wanted it to be done a little sooner, but better late than never. And we're almost there. It's just a huge lift. It's a huge undertaking. It's very expensive, very time consuming, taking a little longer than we wanted, but we're right here and now. And now I'm hearing, and don't quote me, I don't want to be seen as someone giving quote unquote financial advice. I don't want to be seen as someone over promising and under delivering, and I can't guarantee it. And I wasn't there to sign the contracts and so on and so forth. But I heard from a little birdie recently that there are more people ready to onboard into our cloud than we have hardware for. Literally. What a quality problem. And not only that, so we're talking about like, oh yeah, is it ever going to become this big enterprise in the future? We don't have enough hardware. So if those of you who are on the fence who haven't gotten any hardware yet, you're still thinking about it. I mean, it's your personal choice. You got to make the decision that feels good for you. And yeah, you may be excited about other investments and other programs, and we are as well. But we all need to diversify, and I think this is an absolutely fantastic place to be diversifying. And when I hear that we don't have enough hardware, what a quality problem. And why don't we all as friends here go and collectively sort that out, right? Let's chip into the solution of sorting out this hardware problem and making sure that we have some DAO seats so we can get 3 or 4 more bites of the apple instead of just getting the rent checks. You know what I mean?
And I don't even think we've mentioned this so far. If somebody actually purchases one of the data center units, the fractionalized thing I talk about, they're actually being given a DAO seat, correct?
Yeah, 100%. If they buy it outright.
They buy it outright. So
Yeah.
so they're right now right now one of those data center units is about $16,800. But if you look at what you're getting with the returns on that, because they put this out publicly, so this isn't me making claims. They literally show that if you get like a specific occupancy as the data centers get full, and you just heard what Terry said, that the payouts for each one of those units is like between $2,000 and $4,000 a month. And we own these units for like 3 to 5 years. I mean, the only reason I say 3 to 5 is based on the amount they're being used, how full they are. And that's crazy that somebody can go in and buy something like that and see it loaded up with data and get that. I mean, it's nuts. And then in addition, with that benefit of that, the bonus you get is the DAO seat with one of those units. So it's like lots of apples, lots of
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And I'm not positive if the Dow seats come with the full units going forward into the future, but I know with absolute certainty those who did it in the past, the early adopters, definitely do. And we'll have to double check on those details about how it works going forward. But I mean, that's incredible. Where are you going to take 16K in physical real estate and make just in your example, a $4,000 profit on
No
listen,
way.
at 1.6 million, you probably wouldn't keep 4,000 a month that you keep in your pocket. And we all know that those numbers could also end up being very conservative. And we also know that those boxes can and should last more like 7, 8, maybe 10 years. But for the life of that hardware, you're going to have tenancy and you're going to get paid. And there's just so many exciting things. And now we may also be doing validation for a crypto blockchain that looks like that's going to come together. I don't want to speak on anyone else's behalf. And sometimes things don't happen last minute, but it looks like that's going to happen. And so that's going to be, again, massive usage of these data centers. And
Wait,
it's great being an owner.
Terry, are you telling me that if I had something that needed data cloud storage and CPU in crypto and I owned my own box, I could put that onto my own data center and my data center would be paying me off of my own thing? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
that's exactly it, right? I don't know if people are connecting those dots, right? And so, how many, we have a lot of friends that are going to come and do this too, you know what I mean? And so, the cloud's about to get, a whiplash of its own. In my personal opinion, I just think things are really coming together. Like all those things we've been wanting are all converging. It's been a long road. It's been a little frustrating, a little tiring for people. It's taken a little longer to get here. I'm sure Joe is more frustrated than all of us, but it's all kind of converging, and it's time to kind of get real. And so that's really exciting. So for those who haven't got a Dow seat yet, or even if you only got one, you may want more, right? Like there are 20,000 of them only that will ever exist. And so, I mean, could you imagine if there is an if there's lots of execution variables, let's be honest about it. But if this becomes a big tech company, like many other big tech companies have gone to do, and it's looking really, really good from where I'm standing, and you could be 1/20,000th of the ownership, and 3 to 5 years from now, I don't know when it could be. It's all hypotheticals, right? But if it did go public, oh my God, would we be sitting on like a monster? Listen, go read Rich Dad Poor Dad. He had a big impact on my life many, many years ago. But he always talked about in all of his books, like where the big money is made in things like IPOs and owning companies that if you get in at the early days, that someday turn into something huge. That's where you make the big wins, and I think that's exactly where we're standing. It's hard to see it any other way. Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great point because if you can just get a small bite of a massive pie, it can fill you up. you know,
It sure
sometimes you don't need a slice of a pie that's that big. You just need an aroma off of
can.
something like that. But I mean, if you think about it, 1/20,000th of let's say if you just broke it down, if you could own 1/20,000th of Amazon royalties, right? Like, because I'm actually an Amazon influencer. I don't know how many people know that. Like, I've done over 1,300 product review videos on there. And
Wow.
I'm just because I'm there every day doing stuff on the back office of Amazon. It's just mind boggling to me at how massive that thing is. And if somebody could have gotten in early stages, got a Dow of that company, where would they be right now? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people perceive that. And let alone AWS is the largest by a long shot moneymaker for them than it is the product side.
Yeah.
The Amazon Web Services, that's what AWS stands for. And so you think about getting a fraction of that, and obviously to me, it's fun to kind of imagine these things potentially coming, and again, it doesn't even need to be that big
No, no, it doesn't need
for
to
it
be
to
anywhere near
be,
that.
just like it's crazy.
I'm a proud Dow seat owner. I'm thrilled by it. I think it's awesome to be sitting where we are right now. My debate only is how many seats do I want to buy and how quick, right? And
Yeah.
so we'll talk a bit about that. But let's get into the tokenomics side of it because a lot of people maybe don't understand tokenomics and why this crypto component to it I think is actually really, really exciting but there's royalties, dividends, crypto, voting, committees. You get to do a lot of really cool stuff in a DAO.
Do you
So
want me to pull any of the slides up? I don't know if there was
yeah,
any.
let's pull up we'll get back to that slide after. Let's talk about the tokenomics slide, Mike. Back,
Uh,
there we go.
that one? Okay.
Yeah. So what happens for those of you who have a DAO seat, you will be gifted an NFT. An NFT is a non-fungible token. Think of it as a piece of like digital real estate. And this digital real estate is going to literally spin off tokens for you. Those tokens are then going to be put into an open marketplace where they are exchangeable, A, for goods and services, but also exchangeable for dollars if you wanted to. But why it's so exciting here is because we live in a world where the central banks run the printing press and they can just print at will, and they frequently do, as in all the time. And every time they run the printing press, it lowers the value, the purchasing power of the dollars you hold in your pocket. Bitcoin was revolutionary because it has a fixed supply. There can never be more. And that's why it's going up in value so much. But what's even more novel than a fixed supply is a never ending shrinking supply. That means as the royalties continue to grow, continue to buy and burn these tokens. What do I mean by that? When those royalties come out, they go and be like an active buyer in this marketplace, and they buy tokens and burn them out of existence. They literally are constantly shrinking the supply with those royalties. And I think that's incredible because you've got, as the walls of money keep getting bigger and the token supply keeps shrinking, there only is one outcome. It's just math. It's supply and demand. Those tokens, if you can hold on to them over time, are going to become incredibly valuable. And we've been in other deflationary tokenomics projects, and we see what that math can do. So I love that the DAO seat holders are also going to get that. And that's how we get the benefits from the royalties, which are right off the top line revenue. So again, at 1 billion, at 2 billion, at 10 billion, whatever percentage goes into the royalties is really big math.
And they said that they're going to, I think they call it pegging it to a stable coin, right? So if somebody wanted to, if they got X amount of innate tokens, they could eventually turn that right into US dollars or USDT or won or pesos or whatever based
Yep.
on their market. So, and that's what a lot of people don't understand too, is this is a global project. This isn't just a United States project. The company that's starting it all, NA Technologies, has actually gone through the government. What's the who are they waiting? They got the approval from the Utah.
So when I was at Joe's house a few months back, the lawyers were also present for this particular meeting. And they were in there talking about how they were actually instrumental in writing the DAO laws for the state of Utah. So there's a few other states in the US that have done it, but they actively worked with the regulators to create the laws. In fact, Joe's lawyer is the guy who actually wrote it. They approved it, he wrote it. And so they negotiated on some details, and then they've come to that consensus. And now uh, innate the innate DAO are seeking the final approval. Now that may be 1 week, 2 weeks, or maybe 4 weeks, or maybe 6 or 8 weeks. I don't know. I think it's measured in weeks, not months. We are very close for it to being official. And the day it's official, those NFTs will go live, those tokens will go live, and the party gets started, and it's exciting. And so I just can't wait for it because I just love it.
And let me ask you a question, not to put a sense of urgency on this, but when tokenomics happen, when somebody gets an NFT, those in the early stages can acquire what they would say more tokens through how it works is what they call mining, which is like the NFT minting, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're early on, a lot of times you have the ability to accumulate a few more faster because you're early, right? Like, am I correct?
A lot more than a few. So just so the people know, when the token distribution goes out to the NFT holders, it comes from one set pool of tokens, right? And that pool every day has a set distribution schedule. and it is always equally divided amongst all current active node holders. So when all the NFT seats are there, you don't get a little bit more tokens. You get a lot more tokens if you're in the early days. And so Joe is ready with everything in the background. It's just the day that the legislators sign that paper. And who knows, we might get surprised. What if it happened this week? I don't know if that's realistic or not. I'm not there. Government stuff moves slow. But when it does, token distribution, well, what if there's only, 100 NFT owners, 1,000 NFT owners, 5,000 NFT owners? Out of the 21,000, that would still be, and we had 5,000 live, let's say, that would mean you'd be getting 4 times more token distribution that you get to keep, that are someday going to be worth a lot of money. So being at the earliest days is not insignificant at all. It's actually it might be a life altering decision to do that down the road.
I figured you might know the answer to that.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I love that stuff. And so, oh, by the way, so now let's also talk about the next pieces. So there are ambassador NFTs and founder NFTs, right? And so, Mike, there is a slide that we can talk about. That's kind of right. There we go.
It's not. I mean, you can kind of see it.
I think there's one other one that has it a little more blown up. Maybe.
Maybe.
If there's not,
Unless
we'll use that one.
That's
okay.
it.
This is not bad, but well, yeah. All right. So the ambassador NFTs, as you can see here, are cheaper. You do get token rewards. You do get voting rights. When you see the X on the committee, what that means is later on there'll be a tokenomics committee. There will be a sales and marketing committee. There may be a committee on managing the finances. Right. There may be a variety of committees in there. And as an ambassador, it doesn't matter if you have the expertise or not. You're not going to be invited to be on those committees. And so, I mean, being that this is a partial crypto project and a tech project, I could see myself ending up on all the committees, maybe a few too many than I should be on, but I can just see it. So, I want to have a founder's NFT, so I have the ability to participate, especially if something comes up that I find very interesting. I don't want to be cut out from that. And then dividends, which is a profit sharing pool from the operation. So let's say there's $100 million in sales in the next 12, 18 months. Who knows what the time frame that will be? It's just a hypothetical example. And let's say there's only a 1% profit margin. Okay, you might not be that impressed by that, but after all things are said and done, if there is a 1% profit margin, that'd be $1 million that is going to get paid out to founder DAO holders, but not the ambassador NFT holders. And so, you take a look at that and you say, and I've already read all the light papers and stuff. I didn't memorize them, but I got to see them before the public, which was very fun because I like that stuff. But hey, listen, just divide up that pie. Let's say there's only 10,000 founder NFTs, and I just used the $1 million example just for whatever. But you get that as gravy on top of your rent checks. I just call them rent checks for ease of understanding, and you get that on top of all of your tokens as well. I'm going to be really happy that I was a founder. So you use that example. We talked about, we're still not talking about big numbers on the grand scheme long term of things. It's still going to be very enticing to be a founder's NFT holder. But Mike, you look like you had something to say, so go for it.
No, I thought about it, but I think you covered it.
Sure, go for it, man. Go for it.
Or at least I'm going to default to thinking you covered it. When they showed the pricing, actually, let me pull it back up real quick. When you see the pricing on here for ambassador, and the between 1 and 1,100, it's I can't see. I got to put my glasses on. $599. Price typically goes up because supply is going down, correct?
Yeah, right. So for the very first 1,000 seats, it's on sale right now. And, if they're normally 1,600, but you can pick one up for $1,600 off is not insignificant. But I mean, just the way that I think about this, Mike, in all honesty, I'm not trying to hype it up or talk people into doing things they don't want to do. It's not for you. Don't do it. But do you think if you were ever invited, if there was ever a chance, which is basically zero, if you were ever invited to be involved in the early days of some other big tech company, normally you would have to be an accredited investor. have to be by law. And there is no chance on earth that you are probably ever getting a seat at the table for probably less than somewhere in the neighborhood of 50K. Not one. Like, one is very generous. That means the current ownership of the company is buying seats just like we are. And there is no separate ownership. Those who have seats are the owners, the entirety of the ownership. And so for $1,000, you can go and grab yourself 1 or 5 or 10 seats at the table, increase your voting power, but also increase how much squeeze of the juice we might get on the other side of it if that, if the big money does come in over time, whether the big money comes in from operation profits, whether that comes in from a going public, whether that comes in from a buyout or whatever. Just, I like the idea of sitting there pretty, but there is zero chance. Could you imagine in the early days of Amazon, someone said, I heard about this really huge company someday. You and I want to get in. We can get in on it. Yeah. Like, how many millions of dollars do I need? $1,000. What? I can get in for only $1,000. I mean, you pounce on opportunities like that. They don't come along. I've never seen anything like it come along.
And it's really not out of the realm of possibility that there could be humongous buyouts down the road. The royalties could be ridiculous because, I mean, honestly, and we've thought about this too, is as this project is, laid out, it's active, they're already the data center units are already installed. They're already in the process of loading it on there. I mean, how hard is it going to be to grow that thing when somebody can go up to somebody and I can pull up my phone. On my phone, I'll have an app that I can show my buddy while right after in the middle of playing racquetball. I can say, hey, I don't know what you've been doing with your money lately, but I just paid $16,000 for this data center unit, and it's producing me. And I show him my phone, and it's producing me $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month. What's he going to ask? He's going to say, how do I get one? Well, if you multiply that out across the board, now we've got tons of people buying these more data centers. It allows us to bring in larger enterprise clients. And there's a, what was it called? It's not, I guess I don't think it's the phrase overflow, but it's the easiest word to understand. Everybody has to also understand. I said it's at the very beginning of this podcast that there's more demand for data storage than there are data storage centers out there right now.
Mhm.
So companies like Amazon have already gone outside of their own units into other individual units to put their data because of how fast things are increasing. And especially back with, and this has been said a million times on my podcast, with the invention and the advent of AI, every time AI learns something, it stores that info, and then it learns something new and it stores that info and it learns something new. And you had over, if I remember correctly, Chat GPT had didn't they have like 100 million or 10 million or something subscribers faster than any platform on the planet in like 20 days or something like that?
It was crazy. I
It
forget
was
the
some
exact numbers. It was crazy.
insane number. Like it was a number you can't even really put into perspective. That type of data has to go somewhere. We're literally just saying, here you go, put your data here. And then they're just a piece of that goes to you. A piece of that goes to you. Terry, you're in on that, aren't you?
Oh, I'm all over it, man. But here's the thing I think about too, right? So you've got these. When I heard the statistic that all of the data on planet Earth basically got doubled in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
I expect that basically to happen every 2 years from now. People may not even understand how or why that happens, but that's exactly what I expect to happen. And like you said, I mean, you interviewed some guys who work in data centers, like big level, high level guys, and they are saying that the big guys can't even get the hardware fast enough. They can't build it out fast enough. They're having to rent from other cloud providers.
Yep.
I mean, I just need my tiny little slice. But for every slice I'm getting, I'm taking 4 bites, Mike. I'm not having just 1 bite. I like the idea that I can take 4 bites instead of just 1 bite every time I want to go into that Apple, So this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, do you got anything else? I know we've been on here about 40 minutes already.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have questions, you can hit us with them. So, we'll do that. So, um, yeah.
And we're actually live today. Usually I just do the interviews and we're done, but Terry's always willing to take questions.
We see some people in here who already have Dowseats on here. So big applause to you who already have them. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty awesome. And so, you know, we don't here's my message to you guys. Don't get bogged down in the details. Like the last call I did with Joe and Travis. I mean, that's my message. Don't get bogged down in the details. Does it make sense for you to only collect rent checks or with only taking an extra, right? So we talked about the 16K on the boxes. We're talking about adding one more, right? What percentage is one more out of 16, right? It's not that bad. I'm just using very loose math, right? So you put just a little bit extra in and you're going to get dividends, royalties, tokens, voting rights, committee access, complete transparency to how the whole thing is run. I mean, way more transparency than any public company as you would as a shareholder. You're going to get all of that, all of that. So on the grand scheme, I know $1,000 is real money, but on the grand scheme of life, someday when this takes off, or if it takes off, there is an if, but I think it's a when, you're going to look back and say, oh my God, I had a chance to get my slice of the pie for so little on the grand scheme of things, and I didn't do it. Ouch. That's all I can say. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to be at the table. It's just, to me, the question is more about how many seats should we be picking up and at what price tier should you be picking them up versus, hey, do I really want to get more profit out of this thing? Yeah, of course I do, right? Came to the party for cash flow. It's here for you. So what a great way to diversify no matter what else you're involved with.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, Diane. You both have simplified this and articulated what we have our hands on. No problem. I know sometimes it's hard to really grasp this and put it into perspective, but yeah. Well, Terry, why don't we just close it out? I didn't see a lot of questions come through, and we'll have this recording up on my YouTube channel. You'll probably have it on your YouTube channel. I'll put it on the Cloud Investing Podcast, on the Spotify, Spreaker. What else is iTunes? I have that on there. You guys can listen to it again and that kind of thing. And, if you need any information about these, you can always get a hold of one of us and we can kind of show you exactly what you need to do. So Terry Tillaart, thank you, man. Any last words?
No, that's it. I'm just excited for you, friends. Take advantage of opportunities when they're at your fingertips, even if it's a little painful. The pain of missing out is a lot worse. It's just in my mind, like Jim Rohn used to say, regret weighs tons. You know what I mean? It's and discipline weighs ounces. So there you go, friends. We're excited for you. I'll see you at one of the Dow committee seats because you can best believe I will be at one of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us today. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great one.